Chapter 9. Need. Edgar Schein hated when his mother had him run errands. He would purposefully try to make himself scarce when he could see supplies were low. It wasn't that Edgar was a lazy child. It was simply that he was an unpopular child, and the bullies would always find him when he went into the village alone. Especially Pritchard Barton. Pritchard had already bloodied Edgar's nose on 3 occasions, as well as stolen money from him, and even embarrassed him by taking his clothes, forcing him to run home nude. Edgar's mother, Rachel, felt horrible about how her son was tormented, but with Edgar's father gone so often on long trips, she had little choice but to send the boy on errands. Edgar's black locks hung past his eyes as he walked into the village of Hamlin. Gazing down at his feet, the small, pale boy looked miserable. He knew he had to help his mother. He didn't blame her at all. It was his father he blamed. Edgar's father, Joe, worked for the Holy. He was a missionary, and he had been absent for more of Edgar's life than he had been present. The boy resented him for it. He felt Joe should be at home, taking care of him and his mother, not off in other lands. Edgar didn't even feel right calling him father. As Edgar passed houses in the village, he changed his posture. He couldn't afford to hang his head now. He had to be on the lookout at all times. As his eyes surveyed his surroundings, he wished his father were there. But as Pritchard Barton's yellow teeth came sneering around the corner of the blacksmith's shop, Edgar's sentiment changed, and he cursed his father's name.
"You know," Pritchard said, "I would have thought by now you'd just stop showing your ugly face around here, Schein."
Edgar reacted the same way he always did when he saw Pritchard. He kept his head straight, walked as fast as he could, and prayed to the Holy that this would be the time that Pritchard let him go. Unfortunately, as they always did, Edgar's prayers went unanswered.
"I'm talking to you, you little insect,"
Pritchard shouted as he picked up a stone along the side of the road and hurled it at Edgar, hitting him on the shoulder. Pain shot through Edgar's shoulder and arm, but he didn't stop walking. Please make him stop, Edgar thought. Please make him stop. However, Pritchard wasn't alone today. His crony, Joe Stockton, was with him, and Pritchard loved show-off.
"I think the little girl's gone deaf," Joe said, laughing.
"He ain't deaf. Yet," Barton said with a sneer as he picked up another stone.
"Put that stone down, you little bastard!"
Murray the blacksmith came rumbling out of his shop and grabbed Pritchard by his ear.
"If I catch either of you hooligans terrorizing people again, you'll get the back of my hand. Got it?"
Murray released Pritchard's ear, and the boy almost tripped over himself in retreat. Scuffling in the street and kicking up dust, the 2 bullies ran away as fast as they could. Edgar couldn't help but grin at the shocked and embarrassed look on Pritchard's pimpled face. The blacksmith walked over to where Edgar stood and put his big hand on the boy's shoulder. "You all right, boy?" Murray asked. "I'm fine, sir," Edgar said. "Thank you, sir." Edgar looked up into the big man's bearded face. Murray was an intimidating man, and although he had just helped Edgar, the boy wasn't exactly comfortable in his presence. "You running errands for your mum again?" Murray asked. "Yes, sir." "Well," Murray said, and extended his hand down the road, "let's get 'em done then, shall we?" Edgar couldn't believe his luck. The blacksmith had stopped Pritchard Barton, and now he was escorting Edgar through the village like a personal guard. "What do you need to get today, Edgar?" Murray asked. "Mum asked for salt, sugar, and bread," the boy answered. "Where's your dad gone off to this time, eh?" "Don't know, sir," Edgar replied. "He never says." Murray grumbled to himself. It was obvious to Edgar that the blacksmith felt the same way he did about Joe's absence. Edgar had begun to feel much better, but now he was falling back into a depression with the topic of his father in his mind. "How's your mum doing up at the farm?" Murray asked. "She's all right, sir. Busy, but doing fine." "Now, that's enough of that sir stuff," the blacksmith said. "I appreciate the manners, and it goes to show your mum's doing a good job with you, but you can call me Murray. Sound good?" "Yes, sir. I mean Murray." Once Edgar had purchased what he needed, he and Murray returned to the blacksmith's shop. "I got something inside I want to show you before you go back to your mum," the man said. Sunlight came through the windows of the blacksmith's shop, revealing a good amount of dust in the air. The shop was dingy, and it seemed obvious to Edgar that Murray didn't clean very often. "I live just through that door there at the back of the shop," Murray said and pointed. "It's small, but it's just me, so I figured there's no sense in having a whole house. What I wanted to show you is back there. Follow me." Edgar followed Murray through the door into his living quarters. Murray wasn't being modest when he said it was small. There was a bed, a table, and chair, what looked like a closet with a curtain hanging in front of it, and a door Edgar assumed led outside to an outhouse. Leftover food was still on the table, and the bed had not been made. Edgar wasn't used to such untidiness, and as children sometimes do, he let his curiosity get the best of him. "Why don't you have a wife, Murray?" Edgar asked. Murray looked sullenly down at the boy and pursed his lips. Edgar suddenly realized he should have kept his mouth shut. "Well," Murray said with a sigh, "I was married for a time. My wife's name was Andrea. She was the most beautiful woman in the village." Murray then turned away from Edgar. "But she took ill and passed on a couple years ago." Edgar was ashamed of himself and began to say he was sorry, but Murray cut him off. "Enough about the past. Let me show you what's in the closet." Suddenly, Edgar realized he was in a strange man's house and became uneasy. Murray had been nice to him and had helped him, but he didn't know the blacksmith that well and wondered if it hadn't been a mistake to follow him into his shop. Murray reached the closet and turned to Edgar with a smile, but when he saw the cautious look on Edgar's face, he laughed. "Come on, boy, I ain't gonna hurt you." Murray drew the curtain to the side and said, "Now be quiet. I think they're sleeping." As Murray moved the curtain aside, Edgar's eyes lit up. Lying on the floor of the closet was a female wolfhound with 5 pups, all huddled together. The big one's name is Tifa. As Murray spoke, one of the puppies lifted his head from his mother's leg and walked up to Edgar, wagging his tail. "Can I pick him up?" Edgar asked. "Of course you can. Go ahead." Edgar bent down and picked up the puppy. It was like a big ball of brown fuzz. Edgar held the dog in his arms and it licked his face. "What's his name?" Edgar asked. "Well, he doesn't have one yet," Murray said. "Thought you might want to give him one, since he's yours now." Edgar looked up at Murray, slack-jawed, while the puppy continued licking his face. "Really?" he asked. "Yep," Murray said. "He's yours. I can't take care of all these dogs. Plus, he likes you." Edgar was so excited, and he slumped down to the floor to let the little brown puppy bounce all around him. "There's something else I want you to have, Edgar." Murray reached under the mattress of his bed and pulled out a small dagger with a black handle and a red stone on the hilt. "Now, that Pritchard Barton is a sight bigger than you. His head's not right, and he don't fight fair. Any time your mum sends you on errands, you can come see me first and we'll go together. But I might not always be here, so I think you should keep this with you." Murray handed Edgar the dagger, and the red stone shined bright as he held it in his hands. "I don't—" Edgar started. "Hear me out," Murray said. "I'm not saying you should attack Pritchard Barton, but if he puts you in a dangerous situation, that dagger might be your only way out. Not everybody knows right from wrong, Edgar. Far worse, sometimes people think they do when they really don't. It's okay to protect yourself." "Thank you. I don't know what to say." Edgar stared down at the puppy in his lap, and then at the dagger in his hand. "Mum and Joe are real strict with the holy. I don't think they'll let me keep the dagger." Then Edgar's expression soured. "They probably won't let me keep the dog either." Murray pursed his lips and nodded his head. Edgar's reaction wasn't quite what he had expected. The boy felt ashamed and was just about to say he should leave when Murray surprised him. "Well, I'm just going to have to convince your mum then," Murray said. "Let's go." Edgar stood up with the puppy in his arms. "You're going to come home with me and talk to my mum?" "Yep," Murray nodded. "Let's go." A smile broke across Edgar's face. He couldn't believe the luck he had run into. "Oh, and Edgar?" "Yes, Murray?" "You still need to name that dog." Edgar and Murray walked silently for the first mile of the trip to Shine Farm. The sun was setting and the sky was a mixture of blue and pink. There was a dirt road that led to the farm, but it was only the fastest route while on horseback. A straight path through the forest was best on foot. Edgar hid the dagger inside of his shirt. He didn't want his mother to see it until Murray talked to her. The puppy was cradled in Edgar's arms, and he placed a hand in front of the dog as they walked through trees to protect its head from low branches. Edgar worried what his mother would say to Murray. He was already attached to the dog, and more than that, he didn't want to lose the blacksmith's friendship. With Murray on his side, he'd never have to worry about Pritchard again. The puppy wagged his tail and looked up at Edgar with his little blue eyes. Then, as children usually do, Edgar came up with an obvious name choice. "Blue," Edgar said. "What's Blue?" Murray asked. "I'm going to name the dog Blue." "He looks like a blue," Murray said. "Good choice." The blacksmith smiled but didn't say much else on the matter. Edgar didn't really feel like talking anyway, as he was too busy thinking of all the amazing things he was going to do with Blue. As Edgar and Murray emerged from the forest, a large field of tall grass spread out before them. On the far side of the field, up on a small hill, was Edgar's home. The pair waded through the tall grass until they reached the gate to Shine Farm. A wooden fence that only came up to Murray's waist opened with a creak. The sky was beginning to show shades of violet, and Edgar could see candlelight coming from the windows of the small white house. Edgar handed Blue to Murray once they reached the porch, and asked him to wait while he fetched his mother. Murray held the dog up to his face and looked into its eyes. "You're just too cute to say no to, aren't you?" Murray cooed. "Yes, you are. Yes, you are." Murray ruffled the fur on Blue's head, not noticing that Rachel had come out onto the porch. "What can I help you with, Murray?" she asked. "Rachel," Murray said, startled and embarrassed. Good to see you." "Good to see you too, Murray," Rachel said. "Edgar said there was something you wanted to talk to me about?" "Well, actually it was Edgar that I wanted to talk to you about." Murray now noticed how tired Rachel's eyes looked. She was a tiny woman with mousy blonde hair, too small, Murray felt, to be living out here all alone with her husband far away. His heart went out to Rachel, as it had for the boy when Murray spotted him out his shop window. "He hasn't been making trouble, has he?" Rachel asked. "Oh, no, not at all," Murray said. "Actually, it seems as though some bullies in town have been making trouble for Edgar, and I was hoping to have a talk with you about it." "I know the older children pick on him, Murray. I do," Rachel said. "But I'm just too busy to escort the boy around. With Joe gone, I don't have enough time." "I know that, Rachel," Murray said. "And well, that's where I wanted to help. You see, I want Edgar to have this dog for protection." Murray held up Blue. "He's just a pup now, but he'll grow and be real loyal. Wolfhounds always are. Plus every family should have a good dog they can count on." "I appreciate your concern, Murray. Really, I do, but I don't have the extra food for a dog, let alone the time to spend taking care of it." "Well, I can help with that too," Murray said. "I haven't had much to keep me busy since Andrea passed away, and I was hoping I could help out with some things. I'm not asking anything for it. It's payment enough just to have something to do. And I hope I'm not out of line saying so, but I just can't bear to watch you with your hands so full when I've got extra time on mine. What with Joe being gone so often." Rachel stared at Murray sharply, and the blacksmith was afraid he had gone too far. He lowered his gaze and saw Edgar standing in the doorway behind Rachel. "So can I keep Blue?" Edgar asked. Murray glanced back toward Rachel and was surprised to see her with a slight grin on her face. She shook her head and turned to Edgar. "Edgar, go back inside and put another plate on the table." Then Rachel turned back to Murray and smiled. "I do expect you'll be staying for dinner. You can't go hungry on my watch." Murray couldn't help but smile back at her. "Can't say no to that." Rachel stepped aside to usher Murray through the door, and as he made his way past her, she gently touched his hand. He stopped and looked down at her. "Thank you, Murray," she said. Murray looked into Rachel's blue eyes, and something moved inside of him. All of a sudden, he felt very shy. My pleasure, Rachel." Edgar, Rachel, and Murray talked and laughed as they ate dinner, and nobody's smile was bigger or brighter than Edgar's. "How did I get so lucky?" he thought, and snuck Blue a scrap of meat from the table. It was obvious Edgar had taken to Murray, and although Rachel was worried the boy might find in Murray a substitute for his absent father, she wouldn't do anything to prevent his happiness. As they finished dinner, Rachel gathered the empty plates and brought them into the kitchen. Once Edgar and Murray were alone, the boy said, "Did you ask about the dagger, Murray? I didn't hear you say anything about the dagger." Murray looked at Edgar and winked. "Your mother doesn't need to be bothered with every little thing, Edgar." Edgar smiled and lifted Blue onto his lap. Later that night, after Murray had left for the village, Edgar lay wide awake going over the day's events in his head. He couldn't remember any other time in his life when he had been this happy. He pet Blue, and the puppy returned the affection by licking his arm. Edgar looked out his bedroom window and found the biggest star in the sky. Then he made a wish that Murray was his father.